Hello you guys, it's Wayne from One-on-One Animation, and this is going to be a tutorial about tones and values, and I'm going to keep it real simple. It's really for beginners, just to understand what it means when people say tones and values. So here we got Honeybee here, and I'm going to put in shadows and values on her. Up here we got 6 different values, from white to black, and you can see the grays in between there, and that's what gives it the three-dimensional quality. This is more for illustration than it is really for animation. If you're doing character design, this is something you would like to know, but we're going to just go black and white here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a mid-tone. These right there are our mid-tones, right up to there and there. So those are our mid-tones, and I'm just going to pick one of these. I'm going to pick this one right here. There are different ways you can do it, but like I said, I'm just going to show you the simple way. I'm going to fill in Honeybee completely here with this value. And now we have her filled in with the mid-tone. So now we get the mid-tone there, and let's say that the light is coming from this direction, green left. What I want you to understand is we want to think about this. Up here is the light source, and it's coming down from here, and it's shining down right down on top of her. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push the forms. I'm going to make it much more dynamic as far as the values go. So I'm going to come in here. So if we got the light coming in from screen left, and we got it coming in and it's hitting Honeybee's right side, that means over here is going to be where it's going to be in shadow. So all I do is I come in and I put in the shadow pattern, because everything over here is going to be a little bit darker, because the sunlight is not able to hit this part of Honeybee. And I'll come in now. This part in here is going to be covered because it's the inside of her hair, and her head is covering that part right in there. And I'll just continue on here. I'll put some in here, here, and everywhere on her right side is going to have a little bit of shadow. And these are the forearm shadows coming around the hair. And right there, we're already starting to get a feel of some three-dimensional quality in there. So there's our first lay-in of the shadows. And now what I'm going to do is I'm looking for areas where there's going to be a cast shadow. And what that means is if you have an object that's right there, the light is coming from over there and it's hitting it, it's creating what is called a cast shadow, because the sunlight is hitting it right there, and over here is going to be in light, and then over here the object is creating a cast shadow. And what I mean by that is, if we look at her hair here, there's going to be a cast shadow, comes down there, wraps around, follows the pattern of the hair, and it's putting a cast shadow onto her face right there. We'll have a little bit of cast shadow under there. And now the light's coming in there. We're going to have a little bit of cast shadow from the arm that's hitting her body. It's it's going to hit right about there, somewhere in there. And then from her cheek that comes over there, we'll just put a little bit right there. And so now we've created some cast shadows, and we got our shadow pattern we're starting on. It's starting to work. And then there's going to even be right here off her bangs, there will be a couple of cast shadows that are coming in. And then on her eyelid right here, there's a cast shadow that comes in from those eyelids because the light is above her. And then we're gonna I'm just gonna put in the same value into her eyes right there. She has dark eyes. And then I'll come in and I'll put in right now the same value, and I'm gonna just start filling in everywhere that I know it's gonna be darker. And we're going to come like in the mouth. You'll see later on in the video, I'm going to come in and I'm going to darken up some of the values in there, meaning the back of her throat right there, the inside, the wall of her mouth, and the tongue. So now let's continue on with more cast shadows and form shadows. Form shadows, I don't think I explained this. I should have earlier. Form shadows are the first ones I laid in. The ones going around her arms, her fingers, right there, 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 there. And I don't worry about if it's, for this demonstration, I'm not going to worry about it being, you know, exactly accurate. But roughly, I'm just going to get it in there. And right there, we got another form shadow coming in. Then we come in here, this arm right there is shining right there, but I'm going to bring down that cast shadow a bit more from the arm. And that's feeling a little bit better there. Okay. All right, so now we got that. So now what I want to do, here's an example of the different values and how to use them. So I'm going to, she has a bit darker hair, so I'm going to pick that value out. And I'm going to fill in her hair in all the same value. And by the way, Honeybee is flying in the air. She's going screen left here. These are her little bee wings right in there. Now I've got her hair, the basic overall value of her hair. And now I'm going to come back up into this value. Before I do that, what I want you to understand, I started off with that mid-tone value, and then I went to another mid-tone value, and now what I can do is I can go in and I can add the darks. I'm going to pick out my very dark one, the black one. That might be a bit too dark, so I'm going to find one that's very close to it. Okay, so now we got our darkest value in this range. We got that dark value, and in here I'm just going to make that completely dark. That's my darkest value. So now I know there's my darkest value right there. I'm going to use that value on her design. That value is in the darkest value, almost black. So those values, the form values I put in on her antennas at the beginning, they're gone now. We don't need those, because they get lost because this value, being the darkest value, has taken over. But what we will have to show it more is going to be the highlights. And I always save the highlights for last. That was just the way I was taught, just always saving for last. Okay, So here we go. Now we got our darkest. And now let's go to our lightest. Now this is not a highlight. This is just another value. Okay, now we're coming back, putting in values of her eyes. They're going to use that on the teeth. And then what she has is stripes. So I'm going to put in the white stripe, almost white, not pure white. And now I'm going to come in, I'm going to put in the value of her stripes, which is our darkest value. Okay, so now you can see we're starting to get more of that three-dimensional quality there. I'll just, at this point, I'll take a look at it. I know that her boots are also in black. And we'll take a look at it. And because I'm looking at it now, I'm starting to realize, okay, I got some more shadows to put in here as far as like cast shadows. Is being hit by that side over there, it's going to create the cast shadow onto her arm, neck, and I'll put a little bit of form shadow, cast shadow under there, and I'll look at it and just keep adding, but I'm still restricting myself to these values. That's what's really important to understand, is that you don't want to, at the beginning, later on you can have 25 values if you want. That's what you use if you're doing like photorealism. But for something simple like this, just keep your palette limited. You gotta take your time. The more you do this, you'll get faster at it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into edges. Because I'm doing this digitally, it gives you a lot of freedom. Usually if you're drawing on paper, you do this at the moment, but in here, I'm going to show you edges that will be a little softer. So there we go. And now I'm going to talk about the edges. So on form shadows are shadows that wrap around a form. So let's take this object again, and I'll put in a soft edge right on there, and it's a gradual edge as it wraps around. You'll see what I mean when I work on her here. I'm going to make this edge right there of this form shadow a little bit softer. I'm going to do the same thing here, there. And if you're doing this with charcoal, that's usually what I do, drawings in of this kind. Charcoal or a Conti crayon. You just lighten up your stroke as you come in and do this. But you do this at the immediate time when you're doing it with charcoal or Conti. There's form shadow, make that a little. And right here, this is a form shadow right there. And then up in here, I'm going to, that's a form shadow wrapping around the hair. Again, softer edge, a little bit softer. And make that. Then what we have is what is called reflecting light. And that comes right in here. Let me zoom in real close in here. If I come in here, and you don't want to push the reflecting light too strong. I'll give you an example here. If I come in and I put in, this is the reflecting light. And it comes in and it's light that's reflected off of something else, and it creates a light value right in here. What that will do is, you can see how it makes it more three-dimensional in there. Now if you use that too much, if it's just skin tone or normal objects, it's going to look like a chrome ball. So you want to be careful about using your reflecting light. You don't want to go crazy with it unless your character is wet. Then there's a good reason for it. So it just matters what the material is that you're drawing. You know, what is actually made up in real life. Okay, so we'll leave a little bit of reflecting light. I'll put a little bit there. Like I said, I use it very sparsely. That's my own personal taste. You know, it's different for a lot of artists, like it more. And the reason I want it here is I want to break up that shape from the arm down to her upper torso right there. That helps break that up. Okay, so now what we'll do is we're going to come in. I'm coming to the end of this. I'm going to put in some of the highlights from the sun that brings it out. It will punch it out, and this is in light. So what we'll do there, come over here, get our white, and again, my personal taste is you don't want to go too crazy with this, but like I said, it's up to you. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to put in where the light is hitting Honeybee here. It's hitting her hair. I'm going to use different strokes for it up here on her antenna, right there, that side, everywhere where the light is hitting it. Like I said, this is for beginners. I just want to make this simple for you. Come in, put it on top of her arms, everywhere else. Cheeks right there a little bit. I'll put some up here, come back in here. And what we have is a gradation from light to dark. Keep pushing this. Now I'm putting it on top of the line, my line drawing, just to make it even more three-dimensional. And you can use, as far as what brushes to use, some people like using airbrushes on something like, I change it up. I mean, if I was working in oils on canvas, you know, I'm just using oils. But digitally, I just change it up just to have fun. I'm sorry, I'm spacing out here. You know, I'll use a paintbrush. I'll just play around with it. I'll just find different, I usually use like this. I'm sorry, this one I'm using a marker. That's what I'm using right now. It's a marker brush, and I like that. I'll sometimes use an airbrush. I usually don't use the airbrush. It has a tendency to look too perfect, but again, that's my own personal taste. And for instance, I'm going to come in here with this pencil, and I'm going to really push some of the highlights right there. Put a little highlight in the eye. I usually, again, I wait till the very end to do that. Highlight on top of her nose. Here's a good example. The antennas, I think of them as a harder material than her hair or her skin. So I'm going to make that highlight a little more pronounced. Hope that makes sense. Hard edge of the eyelid shadow right there. Oh, I'm going to have some fun here. I'm going to make her wings. Yellow. That's the thing about art, you guys. You can, there are some steadfast rules, but if you want to break them, go ahead and break them. I'll come in, touch it with yellow a little bit there because she is a honeybee. And here I am. I'm looking at her, and I gotta step back. I gotta say to myself, okay, what did I miss? What did I miss? I'm gonna come in here and just keep pushing. I'm gonna fade out that dark line of her hair right there. Fade that out a little bit. And all I'm doing now is I'm just softening that original line drawing I did. And understand this, I didn't do it on this one, but you can go in and get rid of the lines. If you're doing a real rendered finished illustration, you don't need to have lines in there, but you've got to really understand your values much better if you go there. So it's just about practice. Just keep practicing. At the beginning, really just practice with these just about 6 values right there. Soften this up. And look, you guys, this is just my process. I stop, look, say, what can I do to make it better? I'm looking at her now. I'm going to come back into the cast shadows in there, and I'm going to make those a bit darker. And you'll see when I do this, it's going to punch it up more. It's going to make her stand out three-dimensionally better. Back here, I'm going to put this more in darkness, but I'm still within this value, these 6 values. I'm still within there. Darken this all up in there. And I could just keep going on and on. I don't want to bore you guys with me getting obsessive here. But that is the basic approach. Let's recap. I started off with a line drawing. I had created this palette right here of values going from the darkest dark to the lightest light. Then I created midtones going from the darkest dark to the lightest light, and you can see it there. It's dropping down in the value, and you can see that I used these values for this little demonstration here. Then if I wanted to, I can go back in and put in more midtones and more. But to start off with, what I recommend is that you just start off simple and easy, and then as time goes on, you're going to realize, oh, I can put in more, I can put in more. And the best, really the best way, this is all drawing out of my head. The best way to really learn it is by live reference. I know a lot of people don't like drawing like a vase or a jar or some simple object, but if you get really into it and study it and spend a couple hours on studying those values, you're going to be amazed at how many values you can see. Start off simple and then get more and more detailed as you move on with it. I hope this helps you guys, and thank you for watching. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Thank you. Bye-bye.